Welcome to Rising Tide Startups, where we chat with startup founders and solopreneurs just like you from all over the globe. During our chat today, picture yourself starting your own startup journey. If our guests can do it, you can too. Every episode of Rising Tide Startups is sponsored by Podbrand Media. Let Podbrand create and host your company-branded podcast. Learn more at podbrandmedia.com. This is another episode of Rising Tide Startups. My name is Kevin Pro. It's been a real pleasure to host this podcast. And once again, we have another great expert to share with our audience today. Agne, thank you for joining us on Rising Tide.
Thank you, Kevin. Such a great introduction. I can already feel the good energy coming into this. So thanks a lot for having me.
So I've done this podcast since 2018, and we've had more than 300 episodes, probably from 30 different countries, and we actually are adding another country, Lithuania, to the list today. So first of all, please share your full name with our audience, so I won't butcher it too badly.
Yeah, so might be complicated for some to pronounce it correctly, but my name is Agne Marija Mokrikaitė. So kind of like three names that you need to say, but here it is.
So if you and I were at a networking event, how would you introduce yourself to me?
That's a very good question. So just for context, so I am in personal branding space, and I should be the person who is like very kind of like easy with introducing herself. But of course, over time, I've gone better. But maybe to start this podcast, it would be the most interesting way for me to just kind of like go over my story and how I came into the space and what I'm really about. My name is Agne. I'm from Lithuania, and from a very young age, I was very much into like building things, entrepreneurship, always been part of people who like to create, ventures. So always got this inspired from kind of like my environment that I was in. But so that's why, coming to my first point, my journey really started as entrepreneur. While I was still in school, I started a clothing brand, and we were doing pretty well. Like I was just 15 back then, and it was going pretty well. We've got good engagement, on all the social media platforms. But I realized that one thing that we were missing was kind of like a strong brand that comes into this, because we just built everything from scratch. And I was seeing other examples of other, for example, women who were starting their personal brands, but what they did have that I did not, they had a personal brand before they started the clothing brand. And I just saw how easy for them it was, to sell things. They could just, open up their kind of like speak to their followers directly, and there will be already like demand for their products. And I already kind of like things started planting in my head. And I remember then I went on to university, and I was like kind of like searching for new opportunity. What else can I do? And I came across a podcast. So maybe this would be also inspiration for somebody else. But I came across a podcast. It was like a random, Tuesday. And I listened to Rory Vaden. I don't know if you know him. He's a founder of Brand Builders Group.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he's quite famous in the United States. And I remember he just spoke about his research. He did how personal brand impacts the sales of the company. And he said that, I don't remember the exact kind of numbers, but I think it was around 83% of people says that they're more likely to trust a brand if their founder has a strong personal brand and has an engaged audience. So kind of like this removes the barriers for people to purchase things. So if you feel like a strong connection to some person, you immediately kind of like also are very curious about that, new ventures, new products that they're launching, and already kind of feel more inclined into buying that product. And I also like felt this way myself. I also have certain individuals that I follow for a long time, and whenever they release something, it's always very exciting, and I always want to try it out because I just admire them for the people that they are. And I was like blown away by this idea. I was like, and it was like 2021, so it was like back in the day when personal branding was still like a very early stage of all of this. Like
Yep.
there was still not that many like influencers, like only like on Instagram there were a lot of influencers, but
Mhm.
on LinkedIn definitely not. Not even the big creators that now we all aware of are of their names. So everything started this way, and I was like, okay, like this is a great idea. This is a very effective form of marketing. I should start learning this. Like I just got this impulse that it's really something that I could do very well in. And I remember the next day, I talked to a couple of people about this idea, and they said, okay, then you should start posting. I was like, yeah, but it's scary. Like, what would I say? Say like, if you want this, you need to first, learn through experience, actually build your own audience so that you would be able to help other people do that. I was like, yes, makes sense. Okay, I need to do it. So what I did, I just listened to every podcast, every I don't know book, course that I could find on the internet, and started learning about the topic. And then basically, I took those insights and started publishing content on LinkedIn. So just kind of like doing a recap. I watched the scores. This is the key takeaway that will help you build your personal brand if you're interested in that topic. And I just started sharing day to day, like certain things that I find interesting. And what happened then, at first, of course, I didn't get good engagement, but what it did, it helped me, it connected me to a person who just started his personal branding agency
Mhm.
on LinkedIn.
Yep.
And, throughout talks, I realized that it would make sense, for us to maybe like collaborate together. He was also Lithuanian, so it was, very easy to get this going. But they keep in mind that they just started that agency, so they had zero clients. It was like the first month of the whole
That's early
business.
stage startup. That's what that is.
That's very early stage, and I was their first kind of employee. I wasn't even employee on paper. I was just kind of supporting them wherever they needed me to. But I was doing this for 6 months, and I wasn't getting paid at all. So
Hmm.
this is another part of this. But
It's
what
like an
I did get,
internship.
I like an internship, unpaid internship. But what I did, I was gaining a lot of knowledge from that founder and how he was approaching things. I was also building my personal brand on the side, so he was like coaching me with this. And while my other kind of university peers, they really went on those jobs like baristas, like working
Hmm.
at restaurants. I always I really understood that what like the key now is for me to really build a skill in certain area,
Yeah.
and then in the future that will compound and position me in a better place after I graduate. I would already have something to bring and for my next kind of job opportunity.
Hey, let
And
me
I
let me
really,
ask you something before you
of course.
head further down the road here. So when you first started your kind of the trying to build your personal brand, you said you were reading books, you were looking, taking courses, you were watching YouTube videos and listening to podcasts, whatever. Was there ever a time where people were like, you would post something on there as kind of authority, or say this is the way to do it, and they'd say, "Hey, you have 5 followers. What credibility do you have to offer advice on LinkedIn when you're so early stage?" And was there a tipping point? Was there a point where people said, well, now you're credible. You've got enough followers. You've been doing this long enough, or whatever. What was kind of the early time? Because I want our listeners to really be able to kind of put themselves in your story. Talk about the very early time, and then maybe what that tipping point was.
Yeah, well, that's a very good question. So to answer this, so one thing why I decided to post on LinkedIn instead of Instagram, I always felt that LinkedIn is a very kind of supportive environment.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I never really like received any like negative comments, in public. Although when you start, you always have this imposter syndrome. Especially me when I was just like still in university, I had zero skills, zero understanding, no previous work experience except for the brand that I built myself. So it was definitely very scary, and probably took me, I don't know, like 4 or 5 hours to really kind of like craft a post that I'm proud of and I could share. So I was like overthinking a lot. But I think with every post, it gets easier. And also I think the breakthrough always happens when uh at some post it gets like a good engagement. And then people start like, oh, like this is working for her, then they start to get interested, and you just need to kind of like push through that like uncomfortable period until you start gaining the momentum. And after that, everybody's opinions, they switches. Because I remember in the beginning, I also have had like some acquaintances that were like, oh, why you're doing this? Like, it's a bit cringe, why are you posting on LinkedIn? You're not a professional. But I think like what really helped me was just having this mindset that they will understand, 1 year down the line, they will understand why I was doing this. And that's exactly what happened. So I think like one thing that I also maybe get from my family and how I was raised is that in order to be successful in life, like I believe that you need to do something different what other people are not doing.
Mm.
And that really kept me going. Like nobody else from my background was, posting content on LinkedIn back in the day, especially, nobody who doesn't have the experience. And I was like, okay, if I do this now, I'm, again, better positioned in the future to build the life that I wanted. So I think like you just need to be very strong in yourself, have the right mindset in place that you just need to stick to the uncomfortable, and eventually it will make sense. But the goal is really to do things differently. I'm very certain it's the key to kind of like successful and extraordinary life that everybody wants to build.
Remember Apple in their advertising a long time ago. I mean, they had an entire campaign around be different. That was that was their whole brand identity, for a number of years. But I love that. And one thing you mentioned was the fact that you had posted for, maybe a year before people started recognizing a regular pattern, or they started, saying, hey, maybe she is in this for the long term. It's not just a fad or whatever. But go back to your university time. So what were you studying in university, and did that in any way prepare you for what you did, when you first started jumping into LinkedIn?
That's also a very good question. I really love how you like question things, but yes, definitely. University, I think, kind of like opened me up to new ideas, to new people. So also keep in mind that I'm coming from Lithuania, and here we speak Lithuanian language. So English is actually not my native. So I'm sorry if I
I couldn't
kind of
tell that.
mess things up, but
That's right.
yeah, it's not my native language, but I was studying abroad in the Netherlands, and my university program was all English. My university friends are only like English speaking people, so I think that really kind of like helped me build that confidence and maybe start, talking more in the business language because I was studying business at that school. So yeah, so it definitely like gave me the right skills in place. But yeah, I think also seeing other people, it's a good school. So also seeing other people build their ventures. I think it's very important what kind of environment you're in, what kind of people you're surrounded with. So I think it always gives you like an extra energy, an extra boost to kind of like also think about where things are going for you. So that would be
I
the
love
answer.
it. Have you ever lost followers? Like when you look at it, okay, you say, okay, now I've got 3,000 followers, now I've got 5,000, now I've got 7,000, now I've got 10,000. Have you ever gone from, say, 10,000 to like 9,000 based on maybe a post that you made, or an opinion that you had, or anything you shared, or are you not quite that edgy?
Uh, uh, yeah, so to answer this, so again, I think LinkedIn is a very supportive platform. I think people shouldn't be, scared like sharing their ideas. I think you actually get a lot of encouragement. So that's how I always felt. And in terms of followers, like I never really like focused so much on the follower
Hmm.
count.
Yeah.
Like I always focus on if this post is valuable, if it comes, from my personal experience,
And
if
maybe
it
post
contributes some
engagement. Yeah.
yeah, it contributes some way to the platform. And if I personally, as now also an expert in this field and working with multiple client projects, I feel that like this is actually true and this is something that people can take away, then I don't care if, some people are not happy with it because I personally lived it and I know
Hmm.
this is true. So I never really like focused on the kind of like the count of the followers. But I think like even if you lose a few, if some people disagree, I think and then you see that another 10 agrees and
Yeah.
you kind of increase that follower, so it kind of like balances things out. So yeah, like even I think that you need to be a bit of like different and controversial on LinkedIn, because this is what kind of brings a new perspective, unique perspective.
Hmm.
So you never can grow by kind of like seeing another person in your industry that is doing well and trying, copy their style,
Right.
which is another mistake that I see a lot of people make. But I think you really, if you want to be, again, you need to be different. You need to think out of the box. You need to see what are the things that differentiates you, what
Hmm.
is your unique experience, and what can you bring to the platform. So so yeah, again, coming back to fundamentals.
I love that. And I mean, just in the short time that we've known each other virtually and had conversations, I have a feeling that your definition of being controversial and maybe some other, LinkedIn influencers' definition of controversial might be a little different. I think, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I have a feeling that your idea of controversial is more like being unique in your viewpoint, not just
Mhm.
being not just shock value for the sake of shock value. So,
Yeah.
um, talk about something like maybe you have an example of an opinion that is a unique perspective that maybe the majority of people that are on LinkedIn wouldn't share, wouldn't agree with. What's something unique that you about the platform itself that you might have to share with our audience?
Mhm. I think before I get to this like answer to that question, I also want to capture another point. So kind of like being controversial. So I think another like thing that I see a lot of people do, they really try to focus on virality, and
Hmm.
they see a certain type of topic, a hook really work, and then they try to push that topic with their insights. But also like another part of all of personal branding building is kind of like thinking about how it positions you as an expert. So yes, maybe some posts they can, go viral and get you a good engagement, but then you need to think about if this positions me the right way in a positive light that I want it to be positioned. Because I see also notice like a lot of I know creators back in the day when they were like really focused on engagement, but then what happened in the end that I see that they're doing the same things, they get really good engagement, but then I know that they're not getting, clients or actual
Hmm.
conversations. Like they don't seem trustworthy. They're also like certain accounts that I personally never engage with because
Right.
I just feel like it's too much. It's too kind of like attention seeking, and I believe this is definitely not the right way to grow.
I love it. Love it. The question's still out there about is there an I mean, and maybe you answered it in that maybe you answered both of them in what you just said, but
Kind of.
is there something else that you think, you know what, this is the majority of people I think out there think of this about LinkedIn, but actual in reality, this is true, you know?
What I see, like the biggest thing that I see working right now, so even if you have, for example, a tactical like advice that you want to share with people, and then the common kind of weight of people like creating content is just saying like, here are three things that helps you achieve an outcome X. So this is kind of like a common like hook example that you get a formula kind of. But what I've seen works significantly better is if you tie a personal story to it. So,
Hmm.
for example, if
Yep.
you would say, so recently a client in this industry came to me and they were having this issue, and this is exactly how I responded. So it's the same thing, but it comes from a personal, experience and story. And one thing, it gives you credibility, and another thing, it gives you a better engagement because
Hmm.
people resonate better when you tell everything through a story. So this is a fact.
Yep.
So here's like one thing of advice that I could give, right away.
I love that, and I think you are absolutely right. And I've had other guests on the podcast that have kind of resonated with Donald Miller's story brand, model or his methodology, and they would agree wholeheartedly with what you just said. Um, I love the approach that you just mentioned in your previous answer that said, some people chase like virality. They want the post that has a lot of engagement. I'd seen a post this week that said on LinkedIn, the guy was a marketer, and he said the LinkedIn he said I stopped chasing the LinkedIn algorithm. He said it's broken, it doesn't work, blah blah blah, whatever, you know. And I see so many people trying to figure out the LinkedIn algorithm, but I don't think that that's your approach. You know, your approach seems much more related to I don't really care what the back end mechanics of LinkedIn and how they're changing their algorithm. I am just trying to really connect with my ideal client because I want to share my insights and it's going to resonate with them, and we're going to tell stories that allows them to put themselves in the story and identify with the product, and then they're going, you know, we'll engage. We will have our, you know, business relationship happen. Is that true, or do you care about what the algorithm is doing?
Yeah, so I think that's the most common, kind of thing everybody experiences it. I also in the beginning, I was focused on, kind of like the good numbers and, thinking about what is the good topic to push. But what really kind of made a difference for me is again, coming back to what is my experience, what is the value that I can give to people. And only when I made the switch, I actually started gaining, a good interest from my target people. So I think whenever you kind of like focus on giving, it kind of like attracts interest. So that's the thing that I kind of like shifted to, and that immediately kind of like gave me more kind of conversations, starting in DMs, more followers. I think in general, like position me as a more credible kind of professional. So that's one thing about this. And another thing that I wanted to say is in terms of how I approach things. So, for example, I know that the common kind of like theme is that whenever you start working with a ghostwriter, you get into content immediately. You just kind of like the person comes with their ideas and the ghostwriter just takes their ideas, creates a post. But what I do differently is that I really host like a series of interviews where I kind of like get to know the person. I ask them all the kind of like their background, all the nuances of their industry, all the kind of like the goals that the target audience, their problems, how they approach things. And only once I have that information, I create, a strategy that is built to kind of help them reach their goals and actually gain the interest of the target audience. So there's a lot of nuances that comes into it, but I think that's a really important way to start anything is to have that foundation, to have that really like deep understanding of the background of the person, and only once you have that information you can actually create a valuable content. So also in terms of how I approach things, so it's never something that I come up myself with, what I just like impose to that person, to that industry, but it's all often what a person is experiencing day to day. Like I guide the conversation, but it always is, everything comes from a personal experience that individual has, and I just ask the right questions that I need in order to make that content piece valuable and kind of like get the engagement that we are aiming for. So that's really a difference. So the takeaway for your audience that is listening to this podcast is really to come back to basis, really understand who you're trying to reach, what is their key problem, how are you positioned to solve that problem. And once you have everything written down, then you can start thinking about what content ideas can I share. And the content creation is probably like another topic that we could dive into, but really it comes down to creating that strategy and understanding where you want to go with this. So don't start, post content right away. Just have a good idea that from experience and, push it, but have a more strategic approach. And also don't be afraid to test things. Like it's also like with every client that I work, it's usually a different content type that performs for that specific target audience. So, for example, if a person is in SaaS or AI space, software, then it's usually often like insightful educational content about the new breakthroughs in AI, or I know their personal experiences of how they approach client projects, how they build things, as opposed to somebody who's I don't know in like I don't know some kind of like inspirational field like sustainability or wanting to change the world, or like a coach, then you really tap into their stories about how they helped certain people, how they helped themselves. So, so it's like you need to kind of like test a different type with each, with each person, with each account, until you find the formula that really goes with that account. So for the person that is listening to this, don't be afraid to post one day kind of advice that came from your experience. The other day you can post some industry news that are very trending and add your take to it. Another day you can share your personal story, how you kind of became professional in this industry. What is your background? What are your goals on the platform? Why you want to be public on LinkedIn? And also, don't be afraid to share a bit more personal things. So that's another part, because we're trying to build a personal brand here, right? Not just a brand who shares, advice to people, but we also want other people to get connected to you as a person. So don't be afraid to kind of like put in some hobbies that you enjoy doing, connect to other things and how it influences maybe your business.
I
So
love the kind of the process that you outlined, kind of let's develop the strategy, then let's add the content to it. And now here's a quick word from one of our new sponsors on Rising Tide Startups. Every episode of Rising Tide Startups is sponsored by Podbrand Media. So you started your own company or branded podcast, and now it's fading. Let Podbrand give it new life. Check out podbrandmedia.com to learn more. In your experience, like, do most clients, do they know the product market fit? Do they know who their ideal client is, or are they just kind of, by accident, they're generating revenue? They really haven't even nailed down exactly what the product market fit is. They haven't nailed down who their ideal client is. And is that part of the process for you to coach them, to identify that?
yeah, it definitely it is. Like I was in the good position that most of the clients that I work with, they already have been in the industry for a while and for a couple of years. So, but of course, I coach people throughout, because how we work together, that this is a partnership, a collaboration. Like I want them to succeed, and we just like try things. We try, reaching one audience. If this for some reason is not something that is gaining that traction, then we kind of broaden the
Mm-hmm.
approach. We maybe start sharing more general topics and just see who responds, who really engages. So yeah, together we kind of nail it down, nail the content strategy, and also I help them take the content, maybe to the next level, maybe, advise them on how to build, take the audience that they've built on LinkedIn to other platforms. So how to build a newsletter, how to maybe run ads. So, I also kind of like see the full picture of everything that is possible to do, having experiences in multiple fields, and how we can amplify the reach, starting from content, and then what is the best case for that specific person, where they could take things next, So
Love it. Love it. And I'm gonna give you a chance as we wrap up today. I'm gonna give you a chance to kind of speak directly to our audience as a LinkedIn consultant or a coach. But I want to ask one final question, and it really it's probably more in the content space. But with the advent of AI, I mean, AI has just exploded, in our world here. So, um, what are some of the tools that you would use, and how maybe even pull back the curtain a little bit? What's the percentage of content that you generate that is generated through AI that you're editing versus the fact that you're actually writing it from scratch type thing? So how deep, I guess, do AI tools, how deep are you in the AI tool space, in your what you're trying to produce as a service?
yeah, so definitely, it's inevitable to use a bit of AI to kind of speed things up. And I
Yeah.
definitely encourage also other people who are, starting out to like enable, using these tools. But the way I approach things, that what is really important is not the way how things are written, but really the idea of the post.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of, talks that, you need to use best practices, like use this template approach, have listicles and all those things. But from personal experience, I've seen posts that are not written in the best practices, but
Yeah.
has a very strong idea or a very strong story, and it generates, massive engagement.
Or AI
So
posts that look like they were written by AI.
yeah, and also another point of this is that you really need to be cautious about using AI. So if the post really feels like it's AI generated,
Yeah,
like it just dies out
no doubt
immediately.
about
Like
it.
algorithm doesn't push this and people are not engaged or interested. So the way I would recommend approaching this is that first have the input by yourself. So for
Mhm.
example, take a voice note, record what do you want to say in your own words. And then once you have the kind of the text said in your own words of your personal experience, then you can maybe use AI to a bit, polish the text.
Yeah, I love that.
Maybe, think about the better hook for that specific case, but definitely not, trying to talk with AI and say, I am in this industry, give me 10 content ideas, what should I
Mhm.
say?
Yeah,
So this never works. It
yeah.
has to be something real, and then you can use AI to maybe make it more, readable and just, correct all the grammar mistakes that we make, for example. But
I love that approach. I really do. And I think that is, I think it is, it makes it where it's in your voice and it's not just, I mean, you can tell, you can still tell what are comments on a post are AI generated. I mean, I put a post on LinkedIn a month or so ago where I literally screenshotted like the same, like different comments on different posts. It was the exact same text. And I'm like, this is so sad that we're at the point now that machines are just talking to each other and it's really a bad conversation. So
this is crazy, Kevin,
I
because I also have this post written as well, taking the exact same comments
it's
under my
terrible.
post and, bringing this to the platform. But yeah, like it's a big topic and it's also very, hard to engage with that type of, comment and respond because you're not sure if that person is just commenting for the sake of commenting or
Yeah,
if they really want to, speak on that topic. So
yeah,
yeah, but also another thing to keep in mind that now LinkedIn puts the impression count on your comment. So it encourages people to actually leave very thoughtful comments
hmm
as opposed to, generated by AI. So I think this are their way of trying to mitigate this because I think a lot of people are bringing this to LinkedIn that now it's, full of AI generated fluff that is not
yeah.
interesting and doesn't make people stay on the platform, which LinkedIn really wants to do.
I that is so good. That is so good. I this is the point of our chat today that I was probably most looking forward to, other than just hearing your backstory. But I really want you to just to kind of focus right now. You put on your coaching hat, put on your consultant hat that says, okay, I'm going to speak directly to Rising Tide Startups audience, and I want to assume that they are really newbies, in the LinkedIn space. And maybe give me one or two, maybe three steps that you would recommend that they take to get started, and maybe, cast a vision for a long-term mindset, in that this is a long game. This is a marathon. This is not a sprint. You know, I don't want to lead you any more than that. You use your own words. I'm not your AI generated content here. So yeah, just speak directly to our audience and then just wrap up by letting people know where the best place online to find you, if they want to work with you, how can they learn more?
Okay. Yeah. So the general takeaway of everything that I've been, telling. So probably the first step that I would recommend for a person who's new to LinkedIn, really wants to get the word out there, is study. Kind of like study the creators, study the other people in your industry, what they are doing, learn from their approach. Once you have a bit of understanding and confidence, then really think about what are your goals, is your target audience, how you want to approach things, what makes you unique, and kind of like tap into those topics. So just to give a bit of like strategic approach. So you need to think about, what is the tactical piece of advice that you can share? So tactical, where's your knowledge comes from? What are the key kind of framework systems that you can maybe possibly, share on LinkedIn and kind of like share a bit of your process and help people solve their problem by telling your advice as an expert in your field. Then you can move to the next pillar, which is aspirational. So sharing your personal stories of your client growth, and
Hmm.
also possibly stories of other people that are thought leaders in your field, sharing what they're doing and how it connects to your industry and why your approach works. Then you can also speak about insightful topics. So I know anything that is relevant in your industry that is happening right now that is timely. So it can be, kind of like recent news, industry insights. So kind of like bringing that to the platform, educating your audience in
Yep.
that. And also then you can think about personal pillar, about what are, kind of what are the things that makes you a person? What do you like to do? Are you a business founder? What are the stories that comes into this? Kind of like showing a bit about how you think, how you approach things, what do you like? So these are the strategic pillars. And then, yes, of course, this is the other part is, copywriting.
Mm.
So I could give a lot of tips, on how to do it. So a couple of them would be write as you speak.
Yep.
Every time have something that comes from a real personal experience. Only use AI to kind of make things, work together, but don't generate ideas with AI. Another way is, yeah, just test things. Don't be afraid to. I think also like the biggest problem is that people are afraid
Hmm.
to
Yep.
start. I think that's the biggest blocker. So maybe my story inspired some people because I was also afraid. I was also kind of like shaking, pressing that publish button in the beginning, but uh, I'm very happy that I did so because I was able to go through a very beautiful journey of, starting from scratch, but then having one client, the second client, and kind of building that confidence. And now I'm actually working at one of the leading personal branding agencies in Europe. And I helped already more than 20 founders, build their personal brands on LinkedIn. So if I wouldn't, take that step, I don't know where it would get me. Also, for example, this opportunity, coming on, speaking to your audience, coming on podcast. So also with another client that I recently, started working with, um, they shared like they started posting on LinkedIn, and in the first weeks they already got up a podcast invitation. So
Mm.
I think this is really a power of being visible, and you never know what comes out of this, but I
Yep.
encourage you to try. And if some people don't like your approach, kind of like try to have your side straight and do what feels right to you. And I'm sure that you will get to a place where you never imagined was possible. So that's the encouragement. And in terms of where people can find me and hear more about my advice, so I post weekly on LinkedIn. So you can find me by my name, Agne Marija Mokrikaitė. I'm sure maybe you'll put the link
Yeah,
somewhere,
will
but
certainly be in the show notes. Yes.
yeah. And if you wanted to just take a step further, you can always reach out to me or consult. Even if you're not sure if personal branding is something that works in your industry, feel free to shoot me a message. We can talk about this, and I'm gonna lead you in the right direction.
I love it. This has really been a fun conversation. I'm so glad that
Likewise.
we connected on LinkedIn and gave you a chance to come on the podcast and share your story and share your insights. I mean, this is such a relevant area, I think, for so many of our listeners right now. Is they need to know how to do LinkedIn well. I mean, it is such a. I mean, it's still. We can say it's kind of early days in LinkedIn. I mean, I still think there's a lot of potential for growth in LinkedIn. And I hope that they're, taking some precaution, as you said, to mitigate some of the AI commenting out there and just, fake engagement that's out there. But yeah, it is a social network that I love. I love being on it. I love seeing the engagement on it, and I love people like you, LinkedIn experts that just come in and teach the rest of us how to do this well. So Agne, thank you so much, and just thank you for playing your part in helping all boats rise in a rising tide. Have a great weekend. We hope you heard some great takeaways and are now ready to take action yourself. As always, thank you for listening and helping all boats rise in a rising tide.